Let's do it.
So then can I talk about...
Well, hold up. Welcome, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, squids and squidlets, to the 4th episode of the Jess and Corey Show presents Conversations with a Squid. I'm sitting down with Miss Kim Knight.
It's Mom.
Now, yeah, but at the same time, we don't need to scream it to the world. So
I scream it all the time.
I
Look
scream,
at my kid. Woo!
I scream at you with one finger. So today, just wanted to kind of sit down with you and go over. We just always have such profound conversations. I've
Big
always
ones,
wanted
yes.
to have a decent recording of at least one of them. You've been one of my biggest inspirations and one of my biggest motivations as far as like becoming who I am, as well as trying to be the best version of myself when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to astrological or ethereal things, as well
The
as
woo. It's called
the woo, just anything pertaining to the state of my reality. Now, just kind of start at the beginning, and I mean, first off, I guess we should just list off some of the credentials that you have.
Jesus.
You're a massage therapist, you're a Reiki master, you're an energy healer, herbologist now, right?
I am an advanced herbalist. Yes, I'm in process of advanced herbalism.
And then
I do have a certification in mushrooms. I'm still nervous.
Yeah. What is that? What psych? I don't know. Mushrooms. All right. Fair. So how did it start? Like, where did it begin? Like, what?
You started it. So as you know the story, when you were young, you had a severe sensitivity to sugars and colorings, and that was in the early 90s, and it was just getting to the point where there was a lot of brightly colored foods, bright colors, lots of sugar, lots of chemical preservatives, and you ended up having a pretty severe sensitivity to it. I'm not going to say it was a allergic reaction or anything, but it really messed with you mentally and physically.
Yeah.
It would change you. And unfortunately, your grandma and grandpa worked for Nestle, so they had a whole closet full of
Fortunately
goodies.
for me, yeah, I thought it was great.
You loved it. Grandma also liked to purchase cereal at the time, and still is today, full of more sugar than anything else.
Which I'm still triggered by. I have had maybe one bowl of cereal in the last like 2 years, and every time I go down, I still get triggered by it walking by.
You can't. It's not even food anymore. I mean, you have to be pretty picky about cereal.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. And then I'll go on that
tangent. We'll go on that tangent later.
And then it went on to ice cream. She just would pack you full of sugar, and then you'd come home and you just sob or be exuberant, or you would bash your head into things and start sobbing. And it wasn't until you detox from the sugar, because we didn't eat sugar like that. Well, we were too poor. So we ate real food because that's what we could afford. And you detox and spin out of control for 2 days, and then you'd be back to normal, but until the next time you went to grandma's house. And I had to get kind of up in grandma's face saying, you can't eat like that anymore. And actually you ended up changing the entire family because of your sensitivity. And then everybody had to watch what you were eating. Then it came to your sisters, like, well, she just normally had to eat that way. And then as she's had kids, it's like, well, we just do that now.
Yeah.
As a family. And as you remember growing up, a lot of your friends were like, gross.
They didn't eat at my house.
We're not eating at your house.
Friends didn't usually come over or stay long because there was no food.
Well, there was lots of food, but nothing that they'd ever seen before. And so there was no
The frozen hot chocolates were definitely a good hit, but that was just hot
Chips,
chocolate.
homemade
Yeah,
chips were a
homemade
big one.
chips and salsa. That was a big
Mhm.
one too.
But regular
dinner,
just to stay for dinner, people are
dinner
like,
wasn't a big
is that a
big hit.
squash? Is that
I don't know
broccoli
what the
soup? Oh my God.
what is that?
Why is it that color?
What I remember
Mm.
probably the most is the headaches. The
From the
headaches,
sugar.
the headaches would definitely put me down, and I sympathize with
suffered.
absolutely anybody that suffers from
You also had bloody noses. Do you remember bloody noses?
bloody noses,
Mhm.
chronic headaches, or migraines, or
Constipation.
I mean,
Yeah. For a
after
little kid too. That's
yeah,
terrible.
I mean it. I definitely grew out of it, and I it came to pass. You know, the older I got, the better I
Now
got
you
at it. But I mean, you have to.
you eat weirder than me now.
Yeah, yeah, dude, and it's getting worse, worse by the day.
Yep. But that's where it's all started. It all started with you and food, and it blossomed into our family. And now our family is kind of trendsetters in many different areas. We kind of go, we're fearless, we're adventurers, and we usually are the trendsetters. We'll start doing something because that's what we're doing. And then everybody else starts asking, well, what are you doing?
Why are you doing that?
Yeah. But Doug is also a very good salesman.
Yeah.
We're doing this. And this is why we're doing it.
We're doing it.
And everybody seems to follow us around. So.
But as far as education goes, like what was your biggest reasoning for? Because I mean, you've been you were a cake decorator first before anything, right? So
and I
like
worked at Horizon.
as a kid, what was your dream job? What did you want to become?
Cake decorator.
It was just a cake decorator.
Well, when I was a little kid, I wanted to drive a big truck and have a big dog.
So, like a truck driver.
I wanted to be a
big
truck
dog
driver, and I wanted to have a big dog, and I wanted to drive all over in a big truck.
That's badass.
That's what I wanted to do, and I've done that for Douglas, so that's funny. So my dreams have come true with that one. But then when I started cake decorating, that was my favorite. I really enjoyed it. But what I did to people, I could see the change because they become addicted to certain goodies.
Mm-hmm.
And you could watch their health deteriorate. And that's why I decided I want to do something that makes people healthy.
Yeah.
So that's when I went to school for pharmacy, working in the pharmacy.
When was that? That was early 2000s.
2003, 4, somewhere in there, probably.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was before any of the
before people knew you're not supposed to eat that shit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, before the real science behind the pharmaceuticals or anything, the opiate crisis or any of that nonsense.
Oh, you know what? Well, it was at the very beginning of the opiate crisis, because in the town that we live in, and the pharmacy that I worked at, we prescribed ungodly amounts of opioids, where people would walk out with shopping bags full of opioids, because we had a pain management clinic, a very famous pain management doctor who was actually psychotic, but he wrote a book and everybody followed him. And there was, we sold more opioids out of the little town we live in than most of the rest of the state. And there was cages. If you still go into the grocery store, the main grocery store, you'll notice that the pharmacy is in the middle of the store.
Yeah.
It's because it's built in a cage.
Oh, wow.
So they can like drop a cage and close it off. And the same with the medicine shop. It's a cage. It's built a cage.
So they can lock people out
or lock people in.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Isn't that crazy? And I'm not kidding. We would have shopping bags where we were counting 86 Percocet. This is a 1 month supply because you can only get a month at a time. And we had to count every pill.
For one customer too.
One customer, 86 Percocet, in addition to OxyContins, hydrocodone, 800 milligram Tylenol, all for one person. And then they have to have the constipation medicine, and they have to have the nausea medicine.
Well, everything that goes with it, right? Because
all they're eating is pills.
Yeah, well, all you're doing is covering the symptoms, right? So you're just stacking medication on medication to cover symptoms, right?
That's all they do. There are no pills that actually
cure anything.
They are disease maintenance.
And really, there aren't many diseases right? It's all just symptoms of specific
Nutritional
inf-
deficiencies or
inflammation,
radiation or
stress,
stress.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Man-made diseases, and that's a rabbit hole too.
Yeah, it's just the expression of a gene, right? And how those genes are expressed and the quality of the protein to be able to replicate that DNA, right?
Right.
So, and just a disclaimer. I mean, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a nutritionist. I mean that
I
you
am.
are. So you're more than welcome to
I
make any
am.
claims that you want to.
I'm a
But
naturopathic holistic nutritionist.
um,
And I have my
so
certification, yes.
for me, having to grow up in that was just definitely one of the, I guess, harder and lighter points of my life, because like we were saying earlier, it was hard to keep friends at my house. It was hard
Yeah,
to
but it's
have any friends.
easier for you to look like you do now, having that
Well,
background.
I think it molded me into what I am, right? So I think that
Well,
if
help put
it
you on the
would have,
path anyway.
yeah, if it would have been any different, I wouldn't be where I am right now. But at the same time, it's what started the whole process, right? So
Right.
after pharmaceuticals, because once you started doing pharmaceutical like schooling, because you had did that for a few years. I mean, that was kind of a struggle. But what changed for you once you started to see kind of the
I was making people sicker.
explosion?
So I went to I didn't want to cake decorate anymore because I was making people sick with the sugar. Then I was working in the pharmacy and I saw people getting even sicker than the sugar.
You saw sicker people.
Sicker.
from
So
the
I'm like,
drugs.
oh my gosh, now I'm making people even sicker. So then the next step in my journey was I met Glenn and I did supplements and
How did you meet Glenn?
random answered an ad in the newspaper for a shipping clerk.
Learned
all about supplements and a lot of information about supplements. Ended up buying that business, and because the partnership ended up dissolving the way it did, I took it upon myself to never trust anyone's opinion of things, because
That's kind
they
of a
said
wild statement.
because the pharmaceutical industry taught me one thing and they said this was the truth.
Yeah.
And then Glenn said, well, this is the supplement industry and this is the truth. Well, both of them are incorrect because it goes back to food, because that's the very first thing that you do. It's the clean food and clean water. You'll never need the other, you
Right.
know, if you just go back to the plants themselves, you don't need to make a supplement unless, like, we live in the north, so we
Yeah.
have to supplement with vitamin D
Yeah, we're
and
not gonna
vitamin
get all
C, otherwise
the
we get
sun
sick in the
year
winter.
round,
Right.
we can't get vegetables very regularly unless we ferment them or we have cold storage or something like that.
But you know, you have to eat where you live, you have to eat seasonally, you have to eat clean food, and if you just do those things, you don't need all this other nonsense.
Yeah.
But what you also have to do is you have to work on your inside, which you have to work on a spiritual connection, and you
Yeah.
have to work on everybody's obsession with their feelies anymore. You know, everybody has a feelie and they
Well,
get
not very many left, no.
So you have to work on these inside things just as much. And that also is kind of a natural thing. Going out in the woods and being by yourself is probably one of the best therapists there are. You don't need a
for
pill
sure.
and you don't need some guy with a booklet.
Yeah.
You
A
need to,
shaman.
you don't
need ayahuasca, is what you're saying?
well, that's always a benefit if you're really stuck somewhere. But sometimes the best therapy is just to be with yourself and figure it out.
Yeah. Maybe
know?
have a tent or something and then get some moccasins and go ground yourself out a little.
Now, I like that, but that might not be, you know, everybody can go do that.
There's plenty of space out there.
Well,
Everybody could get a tent.
Everybody can find a little piece of peace somewhere, whether it's on the top of a building or in a park, or
Yeah, you can make
sitting in your neighbor's pool when he's not home.
Whoa,
whatever you
we're
can
not
find some
condoning
peace.
any of this.
Wherever you find your peace.
Yeah.
And quiet and to be with yourself.
So as far as the supplements go, I mean, did you learn what supplements were good, what supplements were
Yeah,
bad? I
yeah.
mean, what do you think?
I
Is
think
it
people
just kind of,
overthink it. I think people overthink it. You know, you can get way too deep into a lot of those things, and you really have to look at yourself and what you're doing. And you and I are a very good example where you are a professional bodybuilder trying to
amateur?
get,
Thank you, but amateur.
well,
I don't get
I am an amateur.
I don't get paid for it.
Well, there
I'm
you go.
sponsored.
Sponsored. Oh, there you go. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Um,
It's been a journey.
what you are trying to get a certain result with certain manipulation.
Yeah.
I am trying to go through menopause without medication and killing anyone. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
You know, so it's all about a balance.
Walking a
And
tightrope.
you and I would not want to eat the same things. You and I would not want to have the same supplements. You and I don't do the same things. So it has to be tailored. And that's why the pharmaceutical industry doesn't work, because they have one thing for everybody.
Yeah.
But we're all different. We're all doing something different. Us eating in the North, we're not going to eat the same things that they do in the South or South America or Alaska. You know, everybody's got a different location and are doing different things. So it's not a one size fit all.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to tell an Eskimo, a native Eskimo, to eat the same diet as a Peruvian, like Inuit, you know, like.
Inuit is in Alaska, but the Peruvians, they're way up on a mountain, where the Alaskans are down to the water. So that again is something huge, you know. So
I'm just
everybody's
reiterating the fact that they can't have the same diet, just like you and I aren't going to eat the same diet because we're trying to get a different outcome.
Right.
Now, do you think that there's areas that can overlap as far as like nutritionally or supplementally?
Yes, but don't do the standard American diet. Don't do that.
Well, as far
as that's just sad.
As far as supplements go, you know, I mean, there's definitely things that physiologically that we need. Physiology.
You did it, yeah.
Anyway, like amino acids, specific types of carbohydrates.
Yeah, but you want to get it from your food first.
Or protein, or excuse me, fats, right? Specific types.
Well, that's something you and I have a different opinion on too, because we eat fat. We eat more fat than carbs and sugars by a long shot.
Yeah.
And
it's one thing that I really struggle with, and
because most people go, oh my God, the fat, we can't eat that. And it's like, no, you're backwards. You've got to eat the fat. Wrong. That's for your brain. Yeah. And this is always my my example. Because you and I cook. Yeah. So this is how I always say it is, if you cook with fat, what happens?
Melts.
It melts and it becomes very viscous, and
it gets too hot, it
burns.
It evaporates.
Yeah, it'll burn.
It burns off, but
you just add more fat to it, right?
Yeah.
So literally, if you're burning it off, you add more fat to it.
Yeah. And side note, if your oil catches on fire, add more oil. Don't add water.
Don't add water. Don't add water. And then.
But.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish the sugar thing.
But you and I, we eat a whole lot more fat. The sugar, when you cook it, it gets sticky. So as soon as you put heat to sugar, and I know this because I was a cake decorator for a long time, you can heat up sugar to different temperatures, and the more heat you give it, the harder it gets.
Yeah.
And it crystallizes and brittle.
Yeah.
So that's why people's arteries are brittle and everything is because they're eating more sugars, and everybody says, oh, the fat-free snacks, the snack wells, remember those? The snack wells. Well, all they did was take the fat out and give you twice as much sugar. So those were, and people would eat whole boxes going, oh no, it's good for me. It's like, no, it isn't.
Zero fats.
No, that's worse.
Or zero sugars.
Oh,
that's what it is now,
the
right?
Sodas. The zero sugar sodas that turn to formaldehyde. Oh my God.
I guess what we're talking about is glycation, right? So it's that solidification or the sticky outcome of having either processed sugar or too much sugar in your bloodstream to where it becomes acidic and then that can bind either to a protein or a carbohydrate, rendering it pretty much undigestible or unusable, and then it just floats around the bloodstream until
Sticks to stuff. It's sticky.
until it finds something that it's going to lodge itself to, and that's where
It's usually the smaller, the
Right.
finer
arteries or
capillaries and stuff,
yep.
and then it just starts backing up until it gets to the big stuff and
Yeah.
you're hurt.
Yeah. So after supplements, then what? So you were like, supplements aren't the truth. What was next?
I wanted to figure it out. So I started to do deep dives and research. I went back to school, and that's when I got my holistic nutrition degree and my wellness counseling degree. And then I've just been going ever since, more and more diving toward the naturopathic stuff, the energy stuff, we are energetic beings, and when we feed ourselves that positive energy, like that comes from a plant or a healthy animal, then we are energizing ourselves in a positive way. Whereas a lot of the mass marketed fast food or animals that were on farm, the big
commercial farming,
commercial farms, you get an emotional sadness, the
turmoil.
You are taking on that energy field. So, if you just eat that sad meat all the time, it makes you sad. You're full of hormones. You're full of
little chickens.
The chickens, the cows, the pit, all of them.
Oh, the pigs.
And they all know what's happening to them. So we have cows.
They're not stupid.
They're not stupid. We have cows, and yes, I eat meat, and we do hunt.
Yeah.
But this is clean, happy animals. We feed them just like we would feed ourselves. We take care of them like we would ourselves.
They're family.
And we pray after and say thank you, just like Native Americans would.
Yeah.
And we do that with our food.
With everything.
Really. We're really kind of thankful people for the most part.
Well, that's the point, right? You're trying to be as thankful as possible because we become what we practice, right? So that's kind of the whole process of it, is just to be more thankful than not thankful, so that the habit becomes being thankful, and then you just collect that over time in small increments daily, just like building muscle, or just like learning a new language or whatever it is. You can't learn it all in one day. There's no fucking way. And you can't put on 10 pounds of muscle tomorrow. So it's not gonna.
Oh God, I want to put on 10 more pounds
now. But
and you can't lose 10 pounds overnight either. Not healthily, no.
Incremental progression, right? So it's just like one little baby step at a time. And I mean, that's kind of.
And if you focus on your little baby steps instead of the bigger picture where you're going, it helps too. Detoxing from our society, both food wise, technology wise, and societal wise, is really putting a stressor on a lot of folks. You can see people spinning out of control because their lunchbox was shook and they don't know what to do.
The triggers get a little bit smaller and a little smaller, don't they?
And we don't have that issue.
No,
we don't participate really in any of it.
So
you technology wise, but the rest of it, none.
But really, for me, the technology is just an access point for me to be able to get my voice out there, or to try and at least have somewhat of a communication with as many people as I possibly can.
You're trying to save the world, just like your sister.
I would like to influence some of the progression as much as I can, but I'm
fun?
Sure go ahead.
I was just going to say, what's fun is you never know who you're influencing.
Yes.
By, when I was teaching the Eastern Theory class, I would just teach the class and teach interesting things that I found and how it worked, and would present it. And then I would have people come back to me after they'd finished the class and gone on to do other things, and come back and say, it was that freedom to look outside the box and to experience something new and not be afraid to fail. That was fun. It's not just about learning what's in this book. It's what else is out there, and be free enough to go out and find it. you never know how one thing that you're doing that makes you happy is going to touch somebody else and touch them. They're going to touch other people. And
It spreads like wildfire.
it does. It's
It,
a ripple in a
it's
river, and you never know where it goes. And that's kind of cool.
the whole butterfly effect, right? So, I
I
mean,
do like
it
butterflies.
might seem minuscule at the moment, but
It's
just the act of doing it creates a series of events that can't be stopped.
Yep.
Um,
That pushes you along forward.
and I think one of the biggest things for me right now, at least at my age, because I'm only 27, I've got a long ways to
You're
go,
almost 28.
right?
You're almost
Almost,
there.
but I'm still on the fore end of it. I'm still looking forward into my life, not looking backwards at anything. And so it's still this,
I'm in the middle. I get to
yeah,
see both.
yeah. So it's still kind of an obstacle to be able to sit in the right now instead of either thinking about my past or trying to plan my future, right? So, and
Yeah,
maybe
but
this
you
is
know
just my
what?
mindset, maybe it's just me, but trying to transition from being able to let go of the past experiences and my emotional connections to them, and staying away from projecting my expectations on the future and what I feel I'm supposed to be or who I'm supposed to become, right? And just living for right now, because that's all I'm ever going to get.
Well, and that's the best way to deal with all of the turmoil that we're living through right now, because you can't plan a future in a
In
shitstorm.
chaos.
In a shitstorm, you
Well,
don't know where everything's going to land. You don't know what's going to happen. There's so many balls in the air right now. You don't.
yeah.
All you can do is be at the now.
Don't build a house on unlevel ground, people.
Yeah.
It's not smart.
Nope. So all you can do is, and you and I have said this to each other before. We're in our inner tube in the middle of the river. We're just holding on because we're at the rapids right now, and you just gotta let it fly and see where we're gonna go at the end. You just gotta don't try to hang on to the edge because it's gonna happen anyway. Yeah. Just ride it and see where we go. And
now, has anything stood out for you to be able to help with the chaos a little bit? I mean, granted, you're not in it very often.
I'm a hermit.
A little bit of a hermit. Glad you said it. But has anything helped you as far as being able to see past it, be able to take your mind off of the anxious or anxietiness of it and see the good parts,
Well, getting my business taken away from me, like I said, I don't trust anybody now, right?
Any one person
on what they're going to tell me. And you said, well, that was a negative. And I don't think it is a negative, because now I don't listen to what they tell me on the news. I don't listen to what the neighbor says. I go and find out for myself.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah. So if I feel like I have taken action and I'm not at the whim of other people. I have my hordes of different things that keep me occupied and my mind secure. And I know that no matter what happens, I am perfectly fine. I've already taken care of it. I've taken action before I hit the rapids.
Okay. So
I prior pre-planned it.
Yeah.
Because I educated myself.
You're proactive, not reactive.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I think that a lot of folks anymore have become very reactive.
Yes.
They don't know how to take care of themselves. They expect everyone else to do something for them.
Yeah.
Everything is happening to them. It's all about them.
The misinformation, and I took myself out of it too, though. The illusions or the misinformation
in so many different areas.
Yeah. The delusion of truth is a very icky and gross realm, because everybody has their own truth and everybody's living their own reality, right? Because I can't see from
but there's universal truths,
right?
Sure,
like treat others the way you'd want to be treated, or every action has a reaction, right? Like there's fundamental truths to reality, but as far as quantum physics goes, it flips everything on its head. So
But
at
see,
that point,
even that. So if you really listen to Bruce Lipton and some of the stuff he says,
I like Bruce
I
Lipton.
do too. It goes so much farther than we can comprehend.
Oh yeah.
You know, it
Oh,
just, you
yeah.
can't, and it is your environment, and it's what you're playing in your head all the time.
Yeah.
And it's, are you living in a hole and next to the neighbors that are shooting up and living your life that way, and then
For
wondering
sure.
why it blows? Or are you living in I went to Bali. They're living in a shack. They have no money, and they're the happiest people I've ever met in my life. And then you come home, and people have big houses and cars and
multi-million-dollar houses and cars
and all the things that they could ever want. And they hate their husband or their wife. They're cheating on their wives, or their kids are brats, or they hate everything. And so it's not the stuff, it's you. It's all about what you think in your life. And I have had the opportunity before the shit hit the fan to travel a little bit, and it's all on the inside. It's how you think the world is around you is what you're going to get. Yeah. So if you think it blows, it's going to blow.
It's going to fucking blow.
It's going to blow.
And that's a really hard part, especially with
eat
listening
shit
to
and live in shit and talk shit. Guess what? You're full of shit.
You're full of shit.
Your life shit.
Your eyes are turning brown. And really, it's a slap in the face listening to those people like Joe Dispenza or Bruce Lipton.
It's exciting. It's not a slap. It's exciting. It's freeing. It's liberating.
There's a reality check there that I think needs to be addressed, because
that's what we're living.
If you are living in that shit, full of shit state, you have to slap yourself out of it, because you're the only person that's got the dial to the radio. You're the only one that's going to be able to move that radio station from static to a clear resonant, frequency. Mm-hmm. So there has to be some type of like slap in the face to where, okay, I do have the control of this, or I have hit bottom, or this is my
That's what
time.
we're living through right now.
Yeah.
Everybody at this moment in time and history gets a choice. What are you going to do? Here is your choice. Are you going to follow along with everyone else doing what you're told? Or are you going to be a sovereign individual thinking for yourself and get out of the system?
Yeah.
Because you're either going to go down with the system or you're not going to play with it anymore. That's our choice now.
Yeah.
And that's the only choice there is.
Now, what do you think is on the other side of this choice? As far as, we're
going to have to go through the rapids, right? But I think we are going to go through the most beautiful renaissance, because the people that are left are the imaginative, creative, educated. They love each other. They're not the ones holding other people's heads under and saying, no, you can't do this or that. Yeah. We're not brain dead because we haven't had a diaper on our face for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I can see
Atlantis, right?
I can see that we are in store after the rapids, of course, for an amazing renaissance.
Yeah.
Because the people that will be left, we're not gonna
put up with it.
We're not going to put up with it. We're not going to.
Or we're just going to do it all on our own.
We're going to do it on our own. Well, you know what I'm doing. I'm not paying for any of my licensure anymore. I'm not going to do it. I've got all this licensure for all these certificates, and I can practice here and there, and I won't pay for another one of them, because the state that I live in pisses away all my money and tells me if I can or can't do something. Baloney.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm going to freelance it, and I'm going to kind of do some things my own way. And I think that there will be a lot of that where we see that the government is not our friend. They don't spend our hard-earned money properly. I'm not going to be a slave to the pharmaceutical industry that is disease maintenance. Yeah. I'm not going to be
pro-disease.
Well, in addition to that, we're the same companies practically own now all of our food that is in the grocery store, and is Yeah. So do you really want to eat that food?
Shots fired.
Yeah. The Impossible Burger, don't eat that. Oh my
God.
God, don't
The
eat that.
soy-based, mineral enriched
Liz,
fake meat.
yeah, no.
Yeah, I don't even.
Plants don't bleed that way, and so you shouldn't really eat
Plants
it.
don't bleed, bro.
No, not like, well, some of them have milk and sap and such, but
Dandelions have a little milk, and I mean,
there's all milk thistles.
something.
There's all kinds of, yeah, saps and such. And I would consider that tree blood, but it sure doesn't look what they're trying to feed me. And I'm not eating bugs and all the other kind of crap. You know what? I want to see him eat it. Yeah. I want to see him eat all that nasty stuff and see how he looks.
Let's eat a pound of crickets, Bill Gates.
Yeah.
I fucking dare you.
See ya. No thanks.
No, there's no way. And the thought that that's going to be the savior of the world is just absolutely asinine.
We have to go backwards. We have to go
with
backwards.
The plant thing for me, because I mean, like we said earlier, we have different views of nutrition, at least, especially for different outcomes, right? Animals or animal-based products are so much more, percentage-wise at least, safer to consume,
depending on how clean the animal is. Yes.
Right. And plants, if you know what you're doing, you have to know the species, or you have to know how to process it well enough to be able to consume it before it's not detrimental anymore, or it's not poisonous,
exactly,
or
nobody
there's you can't just go out and pick a bunch of plants off the ground and hope you survive.
Well, Scooter can, but I can't.
Yeah.
I myself, this goes back to, I have to know myself. I myself cannot be a vegetarian where I'm eating a raw diet all the time. I do not have the stomach juices and ability. I don't have the ability to process and get nutritional value from an all raw diet.
No, nobody does.
So
no human.
Well, I can't speak for someone else. I don't know, but I'm saying, me, myself, I gotta cook my food a little bit. I can't eat just raw carrots and celery sticks all day. No, I'm not gonna be healthy that way. And
I don't think it's well advised either, just because there's so many deficiencies, and even at that point, you have to be so well versed in the information to be able to round your diet off so well with amino acids that are essential, or omega fatty acids, or saturated fats, monounsaturated fats, polyunsaturated fats.
I always go back to the primal stuff. If you go back a couple hundred years, people were hunter-gatherers.
Yeah.
They lived off the land. They lived within their means. They knew how to process, take care of
the entire animal.
They used the whole product, whether it was the whole plant, the whole animal. Nothing was wasted. And now there's dump trucks loads of waste from all the nonsense. So yeah. I think we have to go backwards. I think we have to know what we're eating and where it came from and how it got there and who took care of it and loved it, or who tended that garden and who put it in a jar, whatever. You can't just depend on someone to take care of you all the time, whether that's your food, your medicine, your home. Look at how many people are homeless. It's not up to everyone else to take care of you. You have to have some responsibility for taking care of yourself anymore.
Well, the hard part with the homeless thing is that there is a fairly decent, I don't know what the percentage is, but I could only imagine that it's relatively high, of mental disorders, and they have been given up on, right? Yes. So that's their only resort is to go to the streets, or and what's funny is, me and Jess were talking about it, like, do they have a rule book? Do they have their own set of rules?
Oh, yeah.
Because there has to be
they have their own societal rules.
Societal rules for even them. They have to have their own classes. They've got to have
hierarchy.
Their own hierarchies. Yeah, as far as the homeless go, which is just as outstanding.
And you know what? They're not racist. Have you ever noticed that? There's
Nobody
no racist
cares.
homeless
And
people.
you know what? They're probably better off as far as
getting along with each other than
judgmental
Yep,
and their
than a school board.
racism, right? Because they don't give a frick what you look like. They don't
No.
care at all. I mean, if you're taking my cigarettes, you're gonna get shanked. But if
that shouldn't happen anymore with all the people stealing like crazy anymore. I think that somebody should
people
get
drive
shanked.
up with minivans and load up their freaking cars for shit and then sell it on Amazon or something stupid. And it's like, well, why didn't you throw them to the ground? Why
You're
don't
not
you
allowed to. You're not allowed to.
why not? Why not? Why can't you throw a punk to the ground anymore?
Because you'll be a racist. You're gonna hurt somebody's feelings. Somebody was probably
he's a thief,
an immigrant of some kind, or mentally incompetent, whatever. They're gonna come up with something.
Is it legal now to be a thief?
Yes, up to $900. Yes, it is.
So
but you and I have a moral compass where we can't go into Fred Meyer's and just load up shit and walk out.
Yeah.
Because if they did that, you know, if all of us,
how would you feel afterwards? You would have to feel so worthless and low after doing that, or you would have to be so disillusioned from reality.
You're not even in there anymore. You don't have a moral compass anymore.
There's nothing left.
No. You're down at the bottom where you don't give a rat's ass.
Which is astounding to me, because
how many folks are like that?
Yeah, how many people are like this? And then what was the ingredients that created this recipe, right? What was the shit storm?
Do you want that, my honest opinion?
I mean, yeah. When
you were growing up, when you were in sports specifically, this is how I see it starting. Everybody got a trophy,
participation award. Son of
everybody got an award, whether you participated or not.
And little ribbons.
And remember, you got thrown out of Boy Scouts because
I don't remember that very well.
Yeah, you got thrown out of Boy Scouts because you were being able to do some of the things they were asking you to do, and not all the kids could. So you were making the kids who couldn't participate all the way. I mean, and like basketball, you could make a basket. The other kids couldn't make a basket. Okay, well, we're going to go on to basket making. Okay, well, you could make the basket, but nobody else could figure it out. Whatever the scout leader was trying to get you to do, you were doing it when everybody else wasn't. So because you could do it, you got launched, and everybody else got their little participation trophies.
See, it's so hard to believe that, because to me,
it happened.
To me as an adult now, it's like, how could you throw somebody out that's literally doing?
Now, they didn't grab you by the scruff and toss you in the street, but they came to
okay, can you excuse yourself or something?
No, they came to Doug and I, the scout leaders came to Doug and I and said, listen, we want everybody here to feel equal and the same and valued, and Corey's too good at everything and no one else can participate. And Doug and I we were blown. We were so blown on the way home, because Doug was always a Boy Scout. He loved it.
Oh, he loved every second of it more than I did.
Yes, he drug you there. He wanted you to be a Boy Scout, and then for you to be thrown out because you were too good. What the hell? Why can't you help any of these other kids? No. So then I started really becoming aware of it, that they wanted the good kids to not outshine any of the kids. Everybody had to be the same.
Yeah.
The slowest kid was now just as important as the fastest kid. But what happens is, that's great for the slow kid, but now everybody's slow.
You put the brakes on to the good kid, and then he gets stunted.
And that happened with not just sports and Boy Scouts. That happened now, as you can see it as an adult, you can see what happened to school. They have stunted everybody's education to go with the slow kid. The slow kid, the transsexual kid, the weirdo, whatever you want to call them, the last one down here. Now everybody's got to be with this kid, not up here and trying to be a star. Everybody's slowed down and stunted.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't send the grandkids to school. That's why they don't go to public school anymore. You guys were like the very last of it. And I didn't even pick on you as a kid. Like, okay, you have to graduate with a degree. So you have to at least,
No,
but
you kind of did. If I didn't get my diploma,
yeah,
then I wasn't moving
yes.
out. Was the
You had to have a diploma. There was no GED. So you had to at least pretend like you were participating, even though you were bored to
even though
death.
I didn't do a damn bit of
No,
effort.
none.
I didn't try at all with school, which
No.
is really sad to think about now, because if I did apply myself, I probably could have gone relatively decently
But
far.
now
But
you are,
I know
you-
too much about the schooling system and college and where the information is coming from. I mean, was it 70-80% of the financial aid going to Harvard comes from China to influence their curriculum?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
that's
astounding.
CRT. What was the one before CRT? That's the CRT now. There's the one where Bush had it. And that's when you were in school. Everybody had to be the same. They've been doing it.
The state testing or something.
Yeah, where everybody had to do it.
Wassel.
It's been going on forever. Everybody's got to be the same and participate the same. Everybody gets the same damn trophy, and now everybody has to be the same gender, and just the same. And it's like, no, we're not supposed to be the same. We're supposed to be excited by each other's differences and learn from each other and stuff. And they just want us all to be dumbed down, easy to control, and the same, and that we all walk the same path and we all do the same thing and follow the same. It's the sheep. The sheep all look the same in the field, and we're not sheep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's how
we're not sheep. We're not sheep.
We're not sheep. Let's just end it at that. We're not going to be sheep, and we're not going to let anybody else control how we view our reality.
Think for yourself. Educate yourself. Don't believe everything here. Educate yourself.
Do your own research.
I love you.
Thank you. And I love you too. Thank you for joining us today on Conversations with a Squid. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya.